sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Are you ready with questions? People are standing there. But before that, I want to say something. Before that, we'll do a little bit of reading from this. There's something I must mention without which I'll be failing in my duty, which is the fourfold qualifications. We all know about that in Vedanta, but it has to be mentioned. So in this book itself, they are described very well. Verse number 20 in this book, on page 12, it starts with Viveka. Viveka means the ability to discriminate, to separate, to discern the eternal from the non-eternal, the reality from the appearance. What is the verse? If you want, you can repeat after me. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Ityevam Rupa Vinishchayah Ityevam Rupa Vinishchayah Soyam, just a minute, Soyam Nitya Nitya Vastu Soyam Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka Samudaritaha Viveka Samudaritaha. A firm conviction of the mind to the effect that Brahman is real, the universe is unreal, is designated as discrimination, viveka, between the real and the unreal. Then vairagya, dispassion. The second one is vairagya. Tad vairagyam jihasaya, tad vairagyam jihasaya, darshana shravanadibhihi. Darshana Shravanadibhihi Dehadi Brahma Paryante Dehadi Brahma Paryante Yanitye Bhogavastuni Yanitye Bhogavastuni. Vairagya, renunciation, is the desire to give up all transitory enjoyments, ranging from those of an animate body to those of Brahmahood, having known their defects from observation, instruction, and so forth. Then number 22. Virajya Vishaya Bratad Virajya Vishaya Bratad Dosha Drishtya Muhurmuhu Dosha Drishtya Muhurmuhu Swalakshi Niyatavastha Swalakshi Niyatavastha Manasa Shama Uchyate Manasa Shama Uchyate. The resting of the mind steadfastly on its goal, that is Brahman, having detached itself from manifold sense objects by continually observing their defects, is called Shama or calmness. Number 23. Vishayebhya Paravartya Vishayebhya Paravartya Sthapanam swaswagolake Sthapanam swaswagolake Ubhayesham indriyanam Ubhayesham indriyanam Ubhayesham indriyanam Sadama parikirtitaha Sadama parikirtitaha Bahyalambanam vrittir Bahyalambanam vrittir Esho paratiruttama Esho paratiruttama. Turning both kinds of sense organs, that means sense organs and motor organs basically, away from sense objects and placing them in their respective centers is called Dhamma or self-control. The best uparati or self-withdrawal consists in the mind functioning ceasing to be affected by external objects. Then number 24. Sahanam sarva dukkhanam apratikara purvakam Chinta vilapa rahitam Sati tiksha nigadyate. The bearing of all afflictions without caring to redress them, being free at the same time from anxiety or lament on their score, is called titiksha or forbearance. Number 25. Shastrasya guruvakyasya satya buddhyavadharanam sa shraddha kathita sadbhir yatha vastu palabhyate. Acceptance by firm judgment as true of what the scriptures and the Guru instruct is called by the sages Shraddha or faith, by means of which the reality is perceived. Sarvada sthapanam buddhe Shuddhe brahmani sarvada Tat samadhanam ityuktam Natu chittasya lalanam. Not the mere indulgence of thought in curiosity, but the constant concentration of the intellect or the affirming faculty on the ever pure Brahman is what is called samadhan or self-settledness. Then number 27. Ahankaradi dehantan bandhan ajnana kalpitan swaswarupavabodhena muktum ichcha mumukshuta or yearning for freedom is the desire to free oneself by realizing one's true nature from all bondages, from that of egoism to that of the body, bondages superimposed by ignorance. All right. So, fourfold qualifications for Vedanta. This is the entrance into Vedanta. This is the ask. Viveka, discernment between the real and the unreal. There is some ultimate spiritual goal. And the world is an appearance, or it is at least, very least, it is transitory. Yeah. This clarity, we all have it to some extent, otherwise we wouldn't be in the spiritual seekers. Here it is talking about Brahman and the world, but you can think about a person who is devoted to God. God is the most valuable thing, the others are not valuable like God. This is Viveka, this discernment. This is good enough. Then comes Vairagya, the dispassion, he says, for everything that the world can offer. And Sankaracarya gives special emphasis on it. He says here, that Vairagyam jihasa, a special, it's in fact a positive thing, a desire to get rid of. It's not just indifferent. That which is indifferent can suddenly turn into attraction. But a strong desire to stay away, enough, stop, that is Vairagya for this world, for everything in this world. For pleasure, for sense pleasures, for money, for relationships, for samsara in general. That is called Vairagya. Then having this strong dispassion, number 22, and the next one is the sixfold treasure. Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, Samadhana, then Shraddha. 6. Shama, Shankaracharya says here, continuously settling the mind on your spiritual goal. That is Shama. Shama literally means mental quietude. Quietude just does not mean a passive mind. No, it's a pretty active mind. It's a pretty focused mind. You know what you want. You want spiritual realization. That settledness, focus. I was reading this interview with, there's this company which is now the most valued, NVIDIA, and the head is this. Jensen, yes. I was reading an interview with him. He's a supposed person who literally works 24/7. So in the interview he says, I found my work-life balance. I just work. So here, he says, Sankaracharya says, this constant settledness on your goal, this is quietude of mind. It's interesting. The mind is not quiet. The mind is in fact intensely active and striving and wanting that. A classic example is Sri Ramakrishna. He seems very restless for God, but for God. And that restlessness of the mind, Shankaracharya calls the restfulness of the mind. Passivity is not shama, nor is scatteredness. Scattered in 100 different directions, that is restlessness, according to Shankaracharya. Dormant passivity, that is laziness. But intense activity, but focused on your goal, that he calls the resting of the mind, the calmness of the mind. Calmness here in the sense, it flows in one direction. Then, damaha, control of the body, the senses. This is all the senses, 5 sense organs, 5 motor organs. They are under your control. Then, uparati. Rati means flowing out into the world in constant engagement with the world. Uparati, reversing this. So he says, Bahya alambanam vrittir uparatir uttama. Bahya ana alambanam. Not holding on to external support. See this, I cannot stay alone, I need company. Miserable state. What do you mean you cannot stay alone? That means you can't stand your own company. If you can't stand your own company, why should others want your company? Oh, I can't sit still, I have to be doing something. Miserable state. You have to sit still. You become a slave to the restlessness of the body and the senses. You leave that person alone. I was watching TV, or nowadays not TV. TV is outdated. It's like scrolling on reels continuously. All the time, just focus there. This looks like concentration. It's not. It looks like concentration. It's focused on one thing. It's not focused on one thing. It's constantly jumping from one thing to another. That's that scrolling. There's a name for it, doom scrolling or something. So, there the mind wants an external support. Something to see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Somebody to engage with. Something to engage with. Something for the mind to dwell. Can you stop? It's like you have legs, you want to continuously walk around. That's ridiculous. You'll say, stop, don't move. Your hands are trying to grab everything. Stop, don't do that. There was a Charlie Chaplin movie, Modern Life. Modern Times. He's a factory worker. And his job is to tighten nuts, a screw. So he's given a wrench all day long. The assembly line, the machines come in front of you. All he has to do is continuously do this throughout the day. So when the shift ends, he comes out and is given up the wrench, but his hand is keep going like this. And the foreman comes and scolds him. Stop doing that. He twists the nose of the foreman like this. We have become like that. We can't stop. We have to be engaged in something. And now social media has given us, it's the biggest temptation. Because you continuously engage with people, things, videos, audio, messages, a variety of inane stuff which keeps you busy all day long. If it was good, at the end of the day, you would feel fulfilled after a day's hard work. You are working hard throughout the day, but it's garbage. And that's why you feel disintegrated. You feel, miserable at the end of the day. So he says, no, withdraw from that. Don't let the mind keep grasping at stuff in the world. Then the next one, titiksha, very important. The ability to, an inner fortitude, the ability to withstand the problems that the world throws at you, your own body throws at you. Withstand that and yet stick to your purpose, your goal of spiritual realization. Then faith. What kind of faith is needed here? What the texts are telling you, what the spiritual master is telling you. A simple faith in that there is something to this. Maybe I don't understand it yet. Maybe I have not realized it yet. But there is something to this. I will pursue it. That kind of faith. Then samadhana. Samadhana is focus. Focus is sarvada sthapanam buddhe shuddhe brahmani sarvada. Always keeping the mind focused on Brahman, on Vedanta, on our spiritual discipline. Always continuously being focused. I saw, as you mentioned, some of these people like Christoph Koch, David Chalmers. One thing I noticed about them, one is a philosopher, one is a neuroscientist, one is a computer scientist. But these people at the top of one is a quantum theorist. I was with them for 4 or 5 days. One thing I noticed about all of them, they're endlessly focused on their subject. Day and night. They're at the top of their field. But day and night, at breakfast, walking down the streets near the canals of Venice, they're not interested in anything else except it's either quantum theory or consciousness, whatever it is, whatever their subject is. They're not forcing themselves. It's a passion. For each of them, it's a passion. Casual conversation. It's always about that. Natu chittasya lalanam. Not curiosity. Not flipping books. One of our masters told us, when we were novices, monastic novices, you go to that Swami. There was one Swami called Shikshanandaji. He's passed away now. Go to that Swami and see how you should study. You don't study. You just flip pages. So we used to go to him. And he would, or whenever I saw him, it's true, he would be sitting there with the commentaries of Shankara. Something that he must have read all his life. He's been a monk for 60 years now. But still, all the time, he's focused there. You go down and bow down to him, he will notice you and he's bow down and go back again. Same thing. He's not reading the latest thing. He's not interested. That's what the study for him is a way of keeping his mind on Brahman. This book is telling me about Brahman, so I'm using it as a pointer. Sometimes these people do that. I remember a story told to me by a very senior monk who served this great Swami Premeshananda. He was a disciple of the Holy Mother. In his old age, he suffered a long time, for many years. He was bedridden. One night he was suffering a lot towards the end of his life, this old Swami. And the attending Swami who told me the story, he said, when the Swami, late in the night, he was suffering and I didn't know what to do for him. And the Swami just said to me, can you read from that portion of Vivekananda? From Vivekananda's Jnana Yoga. It's a book. It's about all of this. Just read from it. And this monk said, I just read from it, read out to him. And this old man suffering, sick, in pain, his breathing became easier, he calmed down and relaxed and he became still. Did he fall asleep? No, he became absorbed. Now what was he absorbed in? He's enlightened. He knows he's Brahman. But sometimes it needs a support, a boost. Because the mind is stuck in the suffering of the body. Now, what you know already, that book helps you. It tells you are not the body, you're not the mind. In Vivekananda's powerful, inspiring language. And this person who's already realized this is using this as a boost. So, not for curiosity, but for keeping your mind on Brahman. And then finally, mumukshutvam. Freedom from the body-mind, freedom from the samsara. This intense desire. Or for a devotee, the intense desire to see God or feel the presence of God. You see in the life of Sri Ramakrishna. Is it only an image, the Kali image in the temple of Dakshineshwar? Is it only stone or is it a living image? Mother, will you not show yourself to me? Crying, weeping. By the way, people always make a big deal about his crying or weeping for God. That's not the only thing he was doing. Every spiritual practice he knew he was doing to the maximum. Utterly sincerely. And after all of that, he would weep that one more day has gone by. The sun is setting on the shore of the Ganga. He's seeing that. And he falls flat on the shores, rubbing his face on this bank of the river. and weeping for mother. And the people around in the temple garden, they thought, oh, he's a simple village boy, maybe he misses his mother in the village. But he was weeping for the mother of the universe. That is this mumukshutvam. In Vedanta it is called intense desire to be free. Sri Ramakrishna said the same thing in another word, vyakulata, restlessness. He was asked, what's the one condition for God realization, for enlightenment? And he says, restlessness. You must really, really want it. Now, so these are the four. Vivek, Vairagya, the set of 6 disciplines, and the 6 treasures, and the intense desire for freedom. Vivek, Vairagya, and this mumukshutvam. Now there's a secret about these 4. Each one depends on the preceding one. So if one is weak, don't struggle there. Go back to the preceding one. I don't have, I have a desire for enlightenment, but just a little bit, not too much. Yeah, it's there. I would like to be enlightened. I would like to attain moksha and nirvana, but not too much. It's not really intense yet. Now what do I do about it? Well, this tells me you go back to what was just before it. The 6, set of 6. Shama, Dhamma, Uparati, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhana. So those 6. Increase those 6, turn up the volume on those 6, you will find intensity of desire for freedom will increase. Well, those 6, I'm afraid I'm a little weak on those 6. Well, then go back to the one before it. And this is very central, Vairagya, dispassion. Shankaracharya says, Sri Ramakrishna says only one thing is necessary, Vyakulata, intense restlessness. Shankaracharya says 2 things are necessary, that intense restlessness and the dispassion for the world. One is the pull towards the ultimate, the other one is the cutting away of the transitory. Sri Ramakrishna says, the 3 drunkards, the 3 friends who were going home one night, they got on the boat and they rowed and rowed and rowed. Next morning they found they were still on the shore. They had forgotten to untie the boat. So that untying the boat is the Vairagya. It is most useful. I'll tell you this much. The questions we come up with in Vedanta, the genuine problems we have in Vedanta, are not Vedantic problems. They are worldly problems. They are problems created by family, problems created by job, problems created by ill health, physical problems, relationship problems, financial problems, psychological problems. All of them, there is a one-word solution in Vedanta, Vairagya. You must say, I don't care. No, I don't have to say that. You have to say it to your own problem. Yeah, there's this person who went to the teacher and started talking about his troubles. And the teacher said, I don't care about your troubles. How cruel. He said, no, I don't care about your troubles. I care about you. Thereby creating a gap between you and your problems. So, Vairagya. People ask, what can I do in Vedanta to make all this real for me? Don't start at this retreat, what we did, the non-dual meditation. Don't even start with hearing, reasoning. No, start before that, these 4-fold. Start with one thing, Vairagya. People think Vairagya means it's for monks. But it's for enlightenment. Anybody who wants enlightenment. Whether you are in the householder life, whether you are a monk, young, old, wherever you are, whatever we are doing. Sri Krishna taught Vairagya to Arjuna in the middle of the battlefield. Arjuna thought he had Vairagya, dispassion. I don't want to fight this battle anymore. I want to get rid of that and go away from here. Krishna said, no, you do it right there, but in a completely detached way. What kind of Vairagya is needed for that? To be in the midst of it and yet not to want it at all. You really need detachment there. Okay. So this is practical. You will notice 80% of your problems will disappear if you have Vairagya. Notice whatever your problem is, I guarantee you in most cases, almost all cases, turn up the volume on Vairagya, those problems will diminish.
Did we make a mistake coming somewhere with such good food?
Which one?
Did we make a mistake coming here with such good food?
No, with such good food, no. Well, Vairagya demands not that you don't have good food. You can control yourself. You feel that I am attached to it. But the sign of Vairagya is, suppose the good food is not there. Does it make a difference to you? You say, no, doesn't make a difference. Then you have Vairagya. I'm controlling myself. I will not have that good food. Is that Vairagya? That's a kind of Vairagya, but I still hanker after it. More than that is, yes, the good food is there, and sometimes the good food is not there. I'm fine, equally fine in both cases. But it's good to test yourself. One monk I met in the high Himalayas, I used to go to him to study Ashtavakra Gita. He's a monk. He used to stay in a cave long ago. When I met him, he had made an ashram. He was elderly. But for nearly 40 years, he showed me the cave where he used to stay. He said one day, as a young monk, he used to go from there to a distant ashram in that area. He had to walk, 30 minutes or something, for a cup of milk. And he said, I'm wasting 30 minutes going there, then having a cup of milk, and 30 minutes, then coming back 30 minutes. So 1 hour, 1.5 hours wasted for a cup of milk. I'll do without it. So no more cup of milk. I'll use that 1.5 hours to meditate. And then he looked at us and he says, oh monks, I tell you in truth, I did meditate, but I meditated on milk. And then I realized it's much better to go and have that cup of milk and be done with it, and then come back and meditate with a free mind. He's meditated on milk, that it's good that I'm not going to have that milk. See how much time I've saved. That was a real master stroke. And then meditating and, well, maybe I should go once a week maybe. Or, well, maybe why not every other day? You're meditating on milk. Not on God. Very interesting things this monks. Vairagya is not an easy topic. When you try to practice it, you will find it is difficult. The world is sticky. You might want to let go. The world doesn't want to let go of you.
The rug story.
The rug story, yes. There was this monk. I didn't meet him, but I met his disciples. He was very well known in that area, many years before my time. He was well known because one of his vows was he would never touch money. And because he would never touch money, many devotees would come and give him money. So he didn't touch money, but he had these long pincers with which he would pick up the money and carefully put it in a box. So he didn't touch money. The rug story, that Sri Ramakrishna story. So near a river in full flood, villagers saw what looked like a rug being swept away. And one of the villagers thought it's an expensive rug, why should it go to waste? So he jumped in the river and with great difficulty swam up to the rug which was being swept away. When he went up to it, he discovered to his horror it was not a rug, it's a bear. And what does the bear do? It catches you in a bear hug. Now from the shore his friends were saying, they saw him being swept away with that so-called rug. They said, let go of the rug, you'll be swept away. And the man shouted, I have let go of it, but the rug doesn't let go of me. Kambal ko chhod de, kambal nahi chhodta humko. The world is like that. We catch hold of it and when you feel, I have had enough of it, I'll let go. Now you find it's not letting go of you. So Vairagya is not easy. Yeah.
Is that about strong likes and dislikes?
Yes. Vairagya will smoothen out your strong likes and dislikes. See what Vedanta tells you. It is all the same Brahman. On the movie screen you see Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader, the hero and the villain. But they are both pictures. The reality is they're the same screen. It's the same Brahman which appears as the kind of food you like and the kind of food you do not like. The same Brahman. Strong likes and dislikes are always a sign of ignorance. So try to smoothen out the strong likes and dislikes. You find it's all conditioning. Okay, we'll have question answer. Yes.
The YouTube lectures, is it scrolling and comes scrolling?
Yeah, if you listen, if you listen to a YouTube lecture for 45 minutes or 1 hour, then you have to be congratulated. You have focus. You have control of the mind, you have control of the senses, you have a dispassion for the world, and you have a focus on Brahman. That's an achievement if you can listen to 40, 45 minutes, 1 hour long lectures. I remember I was walking in Central Park once, and this guy was going on a bike. He stopped, he braked and looked at me. Hey, you're the guy with the really long lectures. I said, guilty as charged. Yes, please. What is scrolling is, I start listening to a lecture, 2 minutes later I get bored, then I listen to another lecture, then I go to an ad, then I watch a cat video and come back to the lecture. That is flickering mind.
Thank you very much, Swami. Just a continuation of the last question, which I didn't have enough time. Like I mentioned, I once had a Zoom interaction with Dr. Edwin Bryant, who's a Bhakti proponent and doesn't believe in Advaita. So I asked him about Advaita, and he said, how do you show the one become the many? And I said, by Maya. He said, Maya is the Achilles heel of Advaita. So I wanted to understand that, and also the fact that when you say Brahman, Nirgun Brahman is without attributes, then how do you justify Maya in Brahman? Thank you.
Yeah. So, Maya is the Achilles heel of Advaita. One becoming the many. Advaita will say because of Maya, Brahman appears as many. One has not become the many, it appears as many. But still, that doesn't solve the problem. Why does the one appear as the many? What is this Maya? Where does this come from? Ramanujacharya, the great teacher, the commentator of the Vishishtadvaita system, in his commentary on the Brahma Sutra Bhashya called the Shri Bhashya, he says that he calls Advaita the Mahapurva Paksha, the great opponent. And then he gives a fair description of Advaita Vedanta. And then he goes on to attack Advaita Vedanta and directs the attack at Maya. And he levels 7 charges against Maya, against the conception of Maya. Where is Maya? Ashraya Anupapatti. Is Saptavidha Anupapatti, the 7 untenables, the 7 unreasonable propositions regarding Maya, he says. Points out 7 weaknesses in the Advaita philosophy of Maya. So for example, the question, where is Maya? Is Maya in Brahman or is Maya in the Jiva? Maya means ignorance in this sense. Is this ignorance which hides Brahman, is it in Brahman or is it in the Jiva? It can't be in Brahman because there can't be darkness in the sun. How can ignorance be there in the sun, in Brahman? How can there be darkness in the sun? But it can't be in the Jiva either, because the Jiva comes after Maya, after ignorance. It's Brahman who becomes Jiva because of ignorance, right? We do not know we are Brahman, that's why we are these sentient beings. If we knew that we are Brahman, then this would be our last life, then we would remain as Brahman, we wouldn't appear as sentient beings. So it's neither in Brahman nor in the Jiva. Where is this ignorance we are talking about? This is called Ashraya Anupapatti. And then there are many others. Tirodhana Anupapatti. Then there's 7, if you look, there are these 7, these are called 7 great untenables. I'm not going to go into the details of that. It's a long and very subtle discussion, but very interesting. And this is the beauty of Advaita Vedanta. Every one of these charges has got excellent replies. And these replies, when you listen to the replies, the question and the replies, your understanding of Advaita Vedanta deepens. It becomes stronger. Your conviction becomes stronger. There is a book, if you're interested, there is a book, 7 Great Untenables, John Grimes. Yeah, John Grimes. 7 Great Untenables. So over there he picks up each of those objections, explains the objection, and then gives the answer from the Advaitic texts to each of these objections. Then you see that objections, they don't stand. And the answers are very fine answers indeed. Very logical answers. So your question is, where does this Maya come in Brahman? If Brahman has no attributes, then Maya is an attribute of Brahman after all. Well, it isn't, because Maya does not have the same existence as Brahman. Brahman is the only thing that exists, one without a second. Maya is not a real attribute or a real power of Brahman. Vedanta Sara, the introductory text on Vedanta, starts with this one line we were all asked to memorize, the essence of Vedanta. Vastu Satchidanandam Advayam Brahma Ajnanadi Sakala Jara Samuha Avastu. Reality is the one non-dual existence consciousness place which is called Brahman. Starting with Maya downwards, everything is unreal. It's an appearance. So, it's not that Brahman has an attribute called Maya. Brahman is the only reality. Maya and all its products are appearances. That's the answer. If there was something called Maya other than Brahman, there would be duality. If you say answer is, no, Brahman is not other than Maya, it is the power of Brahman. Maya is the power of Brahman. In that case, Brahman has an attribute, as a power. But Advaita says neither. There is nothing separate from Brahman called Maya, nor is there a real attribute of Brahman called Maya. The only reality belongs to existence consciousness bliss. Yes?
So then we say Maya has the power to veil Brahman and project the world.
Yes, it does. We can see it practically. Even if it veils and even if it projects, none of them are real. Brahman continues to be real. The sign that Maya is not real is that knowledge cancels it. What does knowledge do? Knowledge only reveals the truth. Knowledge only corrects an error. If there's something real, knowledge cannot negate it. A real snake will not be driven away by knowledge. If there's a real snake, no matter how many times you say you are a rope, you are not a snake, it will bite you. It's only the snake we see in error that the knowledge of the rope can cancel or negate. So if you're saying Maya is negated by knowledge of Brahman, that means Maya is not real. This is the answer from the Advaitic perspective. If this is not true, then knowledge cannot help you. That's what the Vaishnavas will say. This is not true. Knowledge alone will not help you. It's the grace of God. God will help you. There is someone who is a God who is going to come and rescue you. Vedanta is, stick to reality, my dear. Where is this God? No, where? Honestly, where? Where? No, nowhere. Some mystic might have seen sometime. But even there, the mystic sees it. Notice there also, even if one day you get I hope we all get a vision of God, but that will also depend upon your consciousness. The same consciousness which is watching this world will also see God. So more primary than the world or God is this consciousness or this being, you. What are you? That's what Vedanta is interested in. Vedanta is not interested in the world. Science is interested in the world. Vedanta is not interested in God. Religion is interested in God. Vedanta is interested in the reality of all things, especially your reality. What are you really? One monk said, those who believe in God and those who disbelieve in God, both are believers. Vedanta is not in that group. It neither believes in God nor disbelieves in God. Vedanta knows God is real. We know. We stick to knowledge and experience. What is our experience? I and this. Vedanta says start here. At no point become divorced from experience. If you become divorced from experience, it becomes belief, religion, or it becomes speculation, philosophy. Yes.
Hariom Swami, my name is Shankar. My question is related to transition from subtle to gross. In Tattvabodha Panchikaranam process is explained very well. And the subtle Mahapanchabhutas with 1/4 the air, etc. plus 1.
The subtle Panchabhutas and the gross Mahapanchabhuta. The Mahabhutas are the gross ones. The subtle ones are the Tanmatras, Sukshma.
Yeah, the subtle ones. So that explanation is very nice, and universe is created, so it is already created and we are all there. However, I have not come across a good source to how a jiva, once it dies, it goes, and then I have read sketchily that it comes down with the rain and goes into grain, and a man eats the grain and transfers to female. It says that, but where does the subtle transition to growth is unclear.
Yes, the Vedantic paradigm is actually very nice. They say that there are these 5 elements: space, air, fire, water and earth. They have their subtle forms and they have their gross forms. The gross means physical forms. These are the gross forms. But behind this there are more subtle forms. And by the mixture in a particular process, mixture of the Panchikaranam, those subtle forms have become these gross forms. Now by the gross forms of the 5 elements, the physical, these objects are created, these bodies are created, they're all made of these 5 elements. This is the ancient cosmology. Many cultures, not just Indian culture, many cultures, they either talk about 5 elements or 4 elements. Some miss out the space, but start with air, fire, water, earth. So the old way of looking at things. Nowadays we'll talk about particles, periodic table, elements and so on, which is a more sophisticated way of looking at the world. But anyway, those 5, they will combine to form this universe which we see, the physical universe. But the subtle forms of those 5 elements, they combine to form our subtle bodies: mind, intellect, ego, memory, prana, what is called sukshma sharira, the powers of the senses, 5 senses of knowledge and 5 organs of action. The powers, not the physical ones. Physical ones are made of physical elements. The subtle elements combine to form the subtle body. When the death comes, the physical body dies and the subtle body remains, according to Vedanta. According to not just Vedanta, every religion. According to Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Buddhism, Jainism, according to Hinduism, Christianity, Islam, their ideas of the subtle body are different, but all of them will say something remains after death. If it does not say that, it's not religion. If nothing remains after death, it's materialism. That's the distinction. Somebody said, well, communism is also a kind of religion. No, it is not. Because it's all this worldly. If it's within this world, it's materialism. So, religion will always say something survives physical death. That is the subtle body. The physical body will die, the subtle body leaves this physical body. And then it gets hold of another physical body. It's born again as a baby or human or other non-human being. So that's how it's transferred. In our modern times, we can think of it sort of crudely as our devices, computers and phones and laptops and tablets, and the data in it. The device may be broken, but if your data is backed up to the cloud, you can get another device and download it then. So the jiva is the data, and then it comes back. I mean, it's a crude analogy, it's not precisely that. This is what's supposed to happen. This goes on for all of us until we attain enlightenment. When we attain enlightenment, then what will happen is at the death of the physical body, the subtle body also disintegrates. What happens in physical death? This physical body goes back to nature. 5 elements from nature. In the Bible also it says ashes to ashes, dust to dust. 5 elements to nature. That's what is physical death. And for the enlightened one, something further happens. 5 elements in the physical body back to nature, and the 5 elements which compose the subtle body, they also go back to nature. So the subtle body also ceases to exist. In our case, we are actually very ancient beings. We have gone through life after life. Many physical bodies, we are masters at dying. Should not be afraid of dying. We've done it thousands of times. We've done it thousands, don't remember. So, physical death we have experienced many times. But the subtle body will also collapse, will also disintegrate for an enlightened one. So, the difference between enlightened one and non-enlightened one, the enlightened one does not transmigrate, the subtle body does not leave the physical body and go somewhere. For the enlightened one, everything stops there. Actually, the enlightened one has stopped long ago. The moment of enlightenment, you realize you are Brahman, you remain as Brahman, from your perspective. But from our perspective, the body will go on. And you are there in this, embodied in this body. Then this body falls. Vivekananda says, heed no more how body lives or goes, or lives or dies. Its task is done. Let karma float it down. For the enlightened one, they don't heed anymore. Physical body and subtle body will go back to nature. In Mundaka Upanishad, there is a beautiful description of the death, the physical death of an enlightened one. Gata, Kala, Pancha, Dashat, Pratishtha, all the components of the subtle body, they go back to their natural sources. Only for the enlightened one.
What about the subtle world of Leela becoming the gross world? The God's Leela, like the subtle world of Leela becoming gross.
Well, that's how creation takes place. Is that what you mean? What is in the mind of God is manifested as this physical universe.
Like when we do pujas and homify.
Ah, yes. You're right. Yeah, right. So, what we do in a subtle world of puja, it's manifested in the physical world also. Yeah, that's true.
So, just to follow up on that one, Shariram Yadav Apnoti in 15th chapter says,
Yes.
Vayurgandhani.
Yes.
So, the subtle body travels, but how does it become gross? That part of it is not very clear.
It enters into, at the moment of conception,
So,
enters
that's
into.
where it becomes gross.
Yes. Yeah. It's downloaded into a new device. Yes. Next question. Yes. We've almost run out. And people are also beginning to feel sleepy.
Thank you, Swamiji. I have a follow-up question from yesterday. Gauri asked you a question about free will, and at the very end, you said surrender. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah.
And then related, I believe, is I'm not questioning there is grace. I accept it. But from an Advaitic perspective, I feel like you said grace is not part of the framework, or
Okay.
misunderstanding.
All right. So two things. Free will and surrender, and second one is the question about grace. So free will and surrender, this idea I took from a very beautiful article written by Professor Arindam Chakrabarti called "Why Pray to a God Who Can Hear the Anklets on an Ant's Feet?" This comes from Sri Ramakrishna. It says God hears everything. He hears the anklets on an ant's feet. You know, little girls, they wear anklets. They tinkle when they walk. Imagine the anklets which you will put on the feet of an ant. How tiny they would be. And what a tiny sound they would make. But God hears that sound too. So that's a beautiful imagery which Sri Ramakrishna is using. But now this philosopher asks, so if God can hear everything, why? That means God knows everything. Why would you even want to pray to such a God? God knows what we need, so God will give us. Why would you pray? No. You have to ask. Then he goes into an inquiry of the question of free will. So that whole article is about free will. It's a beautiful article. The name of the article, Why Pray to a God Who Can Hear the Ankles on an Ant's Feet? Arindam Chakrabarti. Then he does a survey of the entire field of free will. There are theories which are called deterministic theories, that there is no free will. Why? From a scientific perspective, from a philosophical perspective, from a religious perspective, there is ultimately no free will. It will show you why not, and it's just discussed. There are philosophies which there are theories of free will which say that there is free will. They're called libertarian theories, that there's actually free will. And there are theories of free will which say there is free will and there is no free will. In some sense there is, in some sense there is not. They're called compatibilist theories. So he does a big survey of all these theories quickly over an article about 10 to 15 pages. How is it possible that there can be free will and no free will at the same time? Well, like he says, for example, takes two examples. One is the example of mathematics, another example of our own body. He says, a mathematician is free to do mathematics, make new theorems because of the laws of mathematics. Because there are some axioms on which is assumed, then mathematics works like a game with rules. If there are no axioms, then maybe you can't make your theorems also. So the mathematician's freedom depends on the restriction made by the axioms. Then you can play the game. Another easier example he gives is of the body. He says, I have the freedom to raise my hand or not raise my hand. So now I will raise my hand. Here, I have raised my hand. But he says a lot of it is because of determinism. That's why you're able to do it. You expressed a free desire to raise your hand. But afterwards what happened is entirely deterministic. The neurons will fire, the muscles will twitch, the organs, the skeletal system will support, then the whole thing responds. If these did not work in a deterministic function, you would not have free will. Just go to a place where patients are suffering from paralysis, for example. They have the free will. They want to raise the hand, but the hand is not obeying. That not obeying, deterministically obeying your command, is that freedom or restriction? That's a restriction because it doesn't obey, therefore you can't exercise your freedom. So to exercise your freedom requires restriction, requires determinism. The machine will work as with cause and effect, with perfect cause and effect, then only you can exercise your freedom. Otherwise, you can see it in society also. Endless rules and regulations. Why? Then you can live freely. If it's a continuous chaos, is it more freedom or less freedom? It's less freedom actually. It will be just more struggle daily. So there is no freedom, deterministic. There is freedom, libertarian. Both are possible together, compatibilist. Now he says there are three levels of analysis. One is, right away you look at it, you have freedom. Everybody feels we are free. Society also assumes freedom. Yesterday I mentioned all that society assumes freedom. Economics assumes freedom, law assumes freedom, religion assumes freedom, politics assumes freedom, democracy assumes freedom. But upon investigation, philosophical, logical, scientific, neuroscientific investigation, you find freedom is not possible. Then what is the final outcome of it? There Arindam Chakrabarti says, he connects free will and surrender. He says, use your feeling of free will, we all have a feeling of free will, and your new knowledge through philosophy, science, religion, that this free will is an illusion, it's not there. To acknowledge that. How will you acknowledge that I feel free but truly it is all God's will? How will you acknowledge? Acknowledgement is surrender. He says, Namaha. The word, Sanskrit word Namaha, if you split it up, becomes Na Mama, it's not mine. Salutation means acknowledgement, it is not mine. It is you and you alone. Although it appears to be that it is mine, this feeling is given by you, my Lord, so I will do my best. But all the time I keep surrendering to you, acknowledging the truth that there is ultimately no free will. Yeah. Very beautiful analysis. Read that article, you will like it. Many philosophers will go to the second stage and show that the concept of free will is incoherent and leave it there. They will not boldly say something like that, you have to surrender continuously to God. Philosophers, they will hesitate. They will feel that, they'll be accused of being religious or something. But this philosopher, he goes ahead and says it. It's a very beautiful analysis. I haven't found a better discussion of free will anywhere. Then the second question you asked was about grace. That you feel that, did I mention that Advaita, grace does not fit in the format of Advaita? No, not that. Grace is acknowledged in Advaita, but in its own way. What is the grace acknowledged in Advaita? First of all, the very idea that this coming to Advaita, this liking for Advaita. The Avaduta Gita says, Ishwara anugraha deva punsam Advaita vasana. It is by the special grace of God that one gets this desire for non-duality. Then the text goes ahead without mentioning God anymore. But by the special grace of God, you have got the desire for. This book says, by the special grace of God, one gets a human birth. One gets the desire for enlightenment. One gets the teacher and Vedanta and all that. So these are the special grace of God. In that sense, grace is there. And in the final sense, at the end of the journey, grace is there in the form of enlightenment. Even enlightenment is due to grace, it says. How does Advaita say it? Because Upanishad says it. In the Upanishad, Kathopanishad, Yamaivesha vrinute tasyaisha atma vivrunute tanum swam. Who will become enlightened? Who will realize the Atman? Whomever the Atman chooses, to that one it reveals itself. Now for the dualist, this is a great bounty. Great. They will say, this is what we are saying. It's no Atman Brahman. They're talking about God. Whoever God has grace on, God will show himself, herself, itself to that one. Now for the non-dualist, it's a problematic thing. Atman choosing someone and then revealing itself to someone. What does it mean? Well, Sankaracarya explains it beautifully. He says, whom will the Atman choose? And he says beautifully there, the Atman will choose the one who chooses the Atman. Do you want it? If you want it, Atman will reveal you. If you want it, you will realize God. Associated with that is this qualification. This fourfold qualification sounds very stern. Vivek, Vairagya and all that. So somebody was little uneasy about this and goes and asks Ramana Maharshi, am I qualified for Vedanta? Because if you read this book, you will feel I am not qualified. It's too difficult. So much Vairagya is needed, Vivek, Vairagya, so much discipline is needed. I find I'm failing on all counts. So, am I qualified for Vedanta? And Ramana Maharshi asked, did you say I? Then you can ask, who am I? If anybody says I, you can ask, who am I? Why are you not qualified? Anybody else? No.
I want to
Come.
ask a question. It is a very simple question, maybe you will
Microphone.
answer in a minute.
Microphone.
Okay, so as I have told you before, I was initiated by Swami Ranganathananda ji, and Kathamrita is of course our gospel. So from there, we see Thakur Ramakrishna constantly talking about this same philosophy that that Jagat Mithya and Brahma Satya. And he also talks about Sakar Brahma and Nirakar Brahma over there. Plus he talks about the concept of Ishwar. He's constantly talking about Ishwar. Does he relate Ishwar to the Nirakar Brahma, or is it Sakar Brahma? What does he mean by Ishwar in Kathamrita?
Yeah, what it means is what Vedanta calls Saguna Brahman. Brahman with attributes and Brahman without attributes. So it's not that Vedanta does not talk about Ishvara. Vedanta does talk about Ishvara. If you look at the Gita, the Upanishads continuously talks about God. But it says the ultimate reality is not even God. Beyond God there is a higher or a deeper reality, which is the attributeless Brahman, the absolute. So you can talk about the absolute and then the triangle of God, sentient beings and the world. Jiva, Jagat, Ishvara. So we are Jivas. This is the Jagat, the world. And there is a God in charge of everything. This is the triangle. And religion reveals to us this God. But what Vedanta says is, beyond this there is a deeper reality, a final reality, this non-dual Brahman. That alone is real. And that appears as this world. And you are that non-dual Brahman. Then what about God? God is not mentioned here in this formulation. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jiva Brahmaiva Napara. That Nirguna Brahman also, the moment it appears as the world and as a sentient being, it also appears as the God of the world. That Nirguna Brahman appears as Ishvara Jiva Jagat. In devotion, so in Vedanta, if you have a devotional attitude, your devotion should be towards Ishvara. And your knowledge, the effort to know, is towards Nirguna Brahman. This is the concept of Geya Brahma, Upasya Brahma. Upasya Brahma, the Brahman to be worshipped. What is the Brahman? What is the reality to be worshipped? God, Ishvara, Kali, Vishnu, Shiva, Father in heaven, Allah. All of these are names of the same reality, the one which is to be worshipped. But what is the one to be known? That is the Nirguna Brahman. You have to know it. How do you have to know it? I am that. Yes.
So my second part of the question...
No second part. It's already late. Everybody's sleepy.
It's again very simple for you, because when we got Diksha, we were asked to concentrate on Ramakrishna Dev during meditation.
Okay, so don't go into the details of Diksha. You're not supposed to share it in public. No.
Okay. So, like when somebody today said she saw a blank when she was meditating, I can only see Ramakrishna Dev when I'm meditating because that is what...
That's what you're focusing on. No, she said she saw a blank because the process which we were doing, elimination of neti, and that I'm not the body, not the mind, shutting out the perception of the world, you will come to a blank. So that's a different process. What you are doing is a different process. You are doing a meditation on the Ishta Devata. That's a different process.
Is that the right path?
Of course, certainly. Are there more questions? One more. Okay, last question.
I want to do one announcement again because some of you were not there before. Tomorrow checkout is there, so you have to come and check out before 10 o'clock and leave your luggages in the room where we received the books, please. So everybody who's checked in here, please do that. Handle in as well.
So before the 10 o'clock session, we have to check out and come. Yeah.
Namaskar Maharaj, I am Swami Maithi.
Yes.
In this retreat we talked a lot about Viveka and you also touched upon the four qualities. So, the other important was the Vairagya, and as a householder and a professional, I think I am having difficulties, to cultivate. So what would be the way to cultivate that?
Think of yourself as a monk internally. Take the big jump internal, not externally. Like Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Complete Vairagya. Why complete Vairagya? Then your goal is only God realization. So like Jensen, NVIDIA, work-life balance, spiritual life and work-life balance. My balance is I am only spiritual. I don't have two lives. I have only one life. That's the spiritual life. That's the only way to be a Vedantin. Such a person can be a householder, such a person can. But now you realize why people became monks. Because the practice of Vairagya, if you take it to its logical conclusion, you will see it logically implies that you become a monk. Now, is it necessary to become a monk to be a Vedantin? No. Because if you go back to the sources of Vedanta, the rishis of the Upanishads were mostly householders. And they were fully enlightened. The teacher of the Gita and the student of the Gita, Krishna and Arjuna, both householders. So Vedanta was meant for everybody. But over time what happened was, thanks to this gentleman, Sankaracarya, and Sankaracarya onwards, Vedanta became more and more a monastic endeavor. And for example, I'll give you one interesting factoid. This fourfold qualification, Vivek, Vairagya, etc. The 6 disciplines, among them one of the disciplines is Uparati, pulling back from the world. And in Vedanta texts, they said one meaning of Uparati is you become a monk. So how do you practice Uparati? Become a monk. Give up your spouse, your children, your bank balance, your house and all that. Walk off into the mountains, accept monasticism, put on somebody told me, an orange bed sheet. I said, why are you wearing an orange bed sheet? I was in the Vatican recently, a couple of weeks back. So everybody, they all are used to Catholic priests there, black dress. And they clearly saw that I'm some kind of a priest, they thought. I'm some kind of spiritual teacher. And they speak only Italian. So one Italian restaurant, I was walking past that restaurant, a little Italian restaurant in just outside the Vatican. He looks at me and he says something in Italian, but basically what he said, Padre, what happened to you? Like, in Italian he was saying, Padre, what happened to you? How did you become orange? So you become a monk. And it became a heavily monastic endeavor. Vivekananda is the one, he's a monk, but he says that my mission in life is to bring the Vedanta of the mountains and forests into the cities. Boner Vedanta Shaharini Ashbo. The Vedanta of the forests to the cities of the world. He says the Vedanta which was limited to a few monks and scholars, I want to scatter it, broadcast across the nations of the world. So back to where it belongs. It's everybody's property. It makes your life. In fact, if monks need Vedanta, householders need it even more. I read a very inspiring story. One of the disciples of Vivekananda was the Maharaja of Mysore. And what he did, the Vodayar dynasty, he printed free copies of Mandukya, of Ashtavakra, and distributed it among the citizens of the state. He says, everybody, the householders need it more than the monks. Monks can afford to be devotees of Krishna. Householders need strong dose of Vedanta to protect them, because they are in the middle of the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So the very counterintuitive way of looking at it. Brahman is real, world is false, sounds very monastic. He says, no, who needs the world is false and Brahman is real? It's the person who is in the job, in the family, in samsara. This philosophy will give you strength. It will give you peace of mind while you are engaged with the world. We'll see the implications of all this tomorrow, the wider implications of Vedanta tomorrow. Alright, let's stop here. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.